They're never going to find whoever's responsible for this because they're actually looking for somebody to blame. And they're not actually looking for responsibility at all. Because if they wanted to know who was responsible, they just pull out a mirror.
It's all on me, like, right? 100% responsibility. I am 100% responsible for my life. Now, I think there's a lot of power in that. I'd love to hear your perception of said belief or said perspective in terms of its benefit and maybe even perhaps some of its detriment, if there is some.
Yeah, I actually don't use the word responsibility much anymore. And that's because if I say the word responsibility, it usually collapses with burden.
I contract a little bit.
Yeah. So we've confused the two. Like, I remember I happened to be seeing some news story or something about, I don't remember what it was, but somebody in Congress or the Senate, someone in the government was trying to hold somebody else accountable for something. And they're like, who's responsible? They're looking for who's responsible for whatever happened. And I go, well, of course they're never going to find whoever's responsible for this because they're actually looking for somebody to blame. And they're not actually looking for responsibility at all. Because if they wanted to know who was responsible, they just pull out a mirror. You got to really look at how are we using the word? But most people, when they think about I'm responsible for my life, immediately feel some type of contraction. They feel a burden. All of a sudden there's stories about this is going to be hard. Like I've got the weight of the world on my shoulders. I've got to take care of me and everyone around me. And I'm responsible for the whole world. And that's really how a lot of people are living. It is heavy. And this is why people have neck and shoulder pain. I got the weight of the world on my shoulders. And so I like the word ownership much, much more. It's more encompassing. I'm in ownership of my life. If somebody brings something to me, it's a mirror for something that I get to look at in myself. If I have an emotional charge about something. And so this is why I find things to be more entertaining than having an emotional charge, is because over the last several years, one of my practices is anytime I get emotional charge about something, I immediately recognize it really has nothing to do with what's going on outside of me. And there's something inside of me that's generating this reality. I own my reality. And so the problem with most people trying to take responsibility or ownership even of their reality is they go, oh, I'm responsible for this. And then they start working on the external reality in order to fix quote unquote problem, when what you really need to do is take your attention and then turn it internally and go, why am I getting an emotional charge about this, and getting really curious about it. And that you've done the work when the charge totally dissipates. And what you'll find is when you get to the place where you no longer have a charge on a topic or with a person about a specific thing, the disagreement also just vanishes. So I was in a relationship where this other person would get angry, and their anger would make me angry. Like, because they're getting angry, I'm getting pissed, right? And so you got two people who are just pissed. So one person's getting angry about the outside circumstances aren't matching their desired. And then I'm getting angry because they're angry. And at some point I go, oh, I see what's happening here. I'm joining this person in their anger, and I'm fueling this thing. There's absolutely no reason for me to be angry at all. And so I made the conscious choice to no longer join this person in anger. In fact, make the conscious choice to join nobody in their anger. I don't join people in their sadness. I don't join people in whatever emotion they're experiencing. Now the trick is, most people will hear this and go, okay, I'm going to give that a shot. And what they end up doing is they close off their presence to somebody. So in this example, the thing that most people would try is, well, I'm just going to stop being present with this person. I'm going to leave the space. I can't be in the same room with this person. I'm going to become numb. I'm no longer going to feel anything in an attempt to stay calm. A lot of men do this in relationships with their wives or girlfriends or whatever. They become emotionally numb, and then the woman feels as if she's been left. Then the wound of abandonment appears, right? And so the key is in order to have full ownership, is to stay present in my own feeling world and being present with this other person, and that allowing them to have whatever emotional experience they want to have and behavior that accompanies that without being drawn into it. And then if I can maintain my peace in the midst of all that, what's the result? What do you think the result is? Someone else is getting really angry. I'm in a relationship with someone, they're getting really pissed at me, or they're getting pissed about a situation, and I'm remaining peaceful. Maybe I'm still experiencing joy, happiness, connection. What's going to happen for that person?
They're going to go into a loop until they realize like this is not going anywhere, and either the emotion dissipates or they end up meeting you where you're at. You almost work as like, I imagine you work as a regulator for that person.
Yeah, in a way. So if I join the person in their emotional state, it's codependence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if I hold my sovereignty and I meet that person and I connect and I'm present with that person, you're right. They either will separate themselves because they can't. It is such a it'll be incredibly confusing for that person in the beginning. If it's somebody who you're close with and then you all of a sudden go, you know what? I'm no longer joining this person in anger. And then they may like quote unquote spin out. And because what'll happen is they'll actually, because this is such a strange thing, and they probably have never experienced this with anybody before, because everybody is sympathetic. Everyone's wanting to join each other. They think they're doing someone else a favor by like, people complain about somebody else and like, yeah, you should feel like it's okay. I'm going to validate your feelings. Like, whoa. That's not being a good friend. It may feel good in the moment, but it is such a normal thing in our culture and our society to join people in what they're feeling, that when you don't do it, and then they'll separate, and what ends up happening is they abandon themselves. And so over time, if you can remain present with that person, they'll eventually come around and realize their own sovereignty. So if you're wanting the people to level up around you, then you just have to level up yourself, and they'll begin to reflect back what it is. Now, the external reality is not going to, in my experience, some people who teach this perspective, they are really bought into instantaneous external results. And it may just be that I have yet to embody the full faith of it to the degree in which it is instantaneous. But what I notice, it takes some time. Is the external reality might take some time. I have to really hold and have the faith that I am the creator of my reality. I am the owner of my reality. I am creating at every moment. I am choosing at every moment. And because what'll happen is the mirror will try to say, no, you're not. This is something you made this shift internally and it's not showing externally. I'm going to trick you into coming back. For me, the key is to hold that, my sovereignty, and then watch the external reality begin to rearrange itself around me.
Yeah.
And so if anything is happening outside of me that I don't love, then that's an opportunity for me to look for something internally. And so people, a lot of times, they'll practice faith for 5 minutes and then they give up, right? But you try it for 90 days. Can you hold that for 90 days? Most people can't hold it for 10 seconds.
Yeah.
But if you can hold it for 90 days, I guarantee you the universe will have to rearrange itself around how you're being now.
It's like steering a boat, right?
Yeah.
Like where your boat's pointed and where you're turning your oar there's a lag, and you could turn that bad boy left for 30 seconds before the boat will actually start to pitch and turn, and you have to steer ahead of where you actually are. And the current trajectory of the boat is not indicative of where the boat's actually going to go, much like our lives. I'm glad that you said sympathize too, because I was looking it up really quick because I get these mixed up a lot, the empathize versus sympathize.
Yeah.
I could empathize. I don't have to sympathize, right? I could, and even that might be a step further than where you're explaining, but I could relate and I could understand what you're feeling right now, but I don't have to feel it as well. So I can stay here in present with you, understand your sadness, understand your anger, but I don't have to join you in that practice. And it reminds me of, my daughter when she was a newborn, and we talked about regulating when she's like losing it, and not just hold her close and slow my breath down. And just, I understand she's a newborn. She's in this world. She was just cozied up in this little warm cocoon for 9 months. And she had a traumatic entrance into the world, has no idea what's going on. It's cold, it's bright, it's loud, and get safe again. Help her from spiraling, or as new parents often do. I don't know what's wrong. And they're panicking, the baby's panicking, and it just continues. Just being that anchor, being that regulator helps bring them back out of the storm. And then even like you mentioned, I hold my daughter when she was a newborn. It didn't happen in 2 seconds. It didn't happen in a minute. But like you go in the dark room, you close the door, and maybe about 5 minutes later, she'll settle down. But holding it long enough for that to regulate. That's it for today's stack, but we aren't done stacking. Join the school community to be amongst other entrepreneurs who are building their most effective stack and learning to implement AI more effectively than anyone else in the world. We'd love to see you in there. And for more content, be sure to check out one of these videos, and you can even hit that subscribe button and the bell notification so you can get alerted of every new episode that drops week in and week out. That's it for today. We'll catch you guys in the next one.